Conservative icon Charlie Kirk's alleged assassin, Tyler Robinson, is due back in court today at 3 p.m. Eastern. His defense team is fighting to have the prosecutor's office entirely kicked off the case. Robinson will appear in person, we are told. His defense argues the prosecutor's office should be removed because of a personal conflict of interest. One of the attorneys, for example, they say, 18-year-old daughter, was in the crowd during Kirk's killing. The Utah County Attorney's Office argues they can continue to prosecute Kirk's killing because the daughter was 85 feet away, and they say they have zero plans to call her as a witness. Attorneys for Robinson's defense team are also looking to block the murder video from being introduced as evidence, claiming that showing it is not necessary and, quote, likely highly disturbing to any person who views it. Well, so is the killing, negatively impacting Mr. Robinson's constitutional right to a fair trial. Kennedy.
I completely disagree with that. That is the central piece of evidence in a murder trial. And, you know, I'm not a defense attorney. Emily Campagno, and I know, Kayleigh, you are an attorney, and you worked for the federal government. So obviously I defer to you, but just as someone who's a big fan of Law and Order over the years, like, you know, there are always disturbing things that are introduced as evidence, and that's part of the difficulty of being a juror, is you have to be impartial, you have to be objective, and as an adult, you have to be able to look at that, internalize it, and come up with a decision with, you know, your fellow juror members, and let the chips fall where they may. But that's the justice system we have in this country. And it just seems like the motions that the defense is filing are incredibly arbitrary, and they're doing whatever they can to slow the process of what is inconveniently for them a very public trial.
Charles, how hard do you think it would be not just to find a defense team, but just a group of people, or rather a prosecutorial team, just a group of people living in 2026 who haven't seen that video moments after Charlie Kirk was killed September 10th last year?
It'd be extremely hard. I would almost venture to say impossible. And I agree with Kennedy, the notion that you don't want it seen. You know, the world has to see it. It's devastating. But we have to understand that the measure of evil here. And you know, my biggest fear, honestly, with this whole thing is it doesn't become a circus that overshadows or sort of mitigates what Charlie Kirk was trying to achieve. Because we know ultimately there's what a lot of folks in the media would like it to be. That's what a lot of these side stories have been from day one. It hasn't been focused on what he was trying to do, what he had actually achieved, and instead of all the other sort of soap opera things. And I hope that doesn't become another issue here.
Emily.
Yeah, so three things essentially before the court today. Number one, that conflict of interest that you talked about, whether the prosecution and the entire team has to be conflicted out. I have no doubt that will fail. The child was 18, 85 feet away, wasn't right there. And I think in general, while this is a rare situation in that there were so many witnesses, it doesn't lead to the kind of conflict of interest that would have them, that would rise to that legal bar. Secondly, another main issue before the court is that close-up video. So it's not just the video of the murder, it's a close-up one. And that's when they deal with prejudicial versus probative value. That's when they say, look, is the benefit that this will have on the actual legal determination, is it outweighed by how horrific this video is? And my answer to that as a human is yes. I mean, that's what you need to see. Don't mitigate the horrific nature of this crime. Let the jury see a horrific assassination of a young man in front of the world. Let them see it. Let them see it in front of the defendant. Let him see it and show his expression. Obviously, I'm speaking as a human and not as an attorney. I'm a little impassioned. And then the third thing is, frankly, about secrecy versus the public's fair right and the press's fair right to this trial. And the defense is trying to hide and cloak a lot of their motions, leading to guesswork on behalf of the public. What was in that motion that they're trying to keep sealed, and many and huge media outlets have filed sort of input in these motions saying, look, we need fair access to this, and then add on to that Erica Kirk's filing where she says, let's get this show on the road. You know, I'm sick of you, defense, throwing the spaghetti at the wall and having us all have to wait for justice because you're just trying to make your ways and stir the pot.
I was reading earlier, of course, he hasn't been indicted yet. Have you ever seen a case have this much? Well, maybe we haven't because it's not usually this public. But this is a lot going on before we get to the point where we even start to think about starting.
Well, look at Mangione. I mean,
Good
frankly,
point.
all of these high-profile, heavily covered, public weighs in. I think the advent of social media really played a part in everyone sort of sensationalizing what's going on and a lot of scrutiny on the defense teams.
I have a deep concern about this case, and I have a precedent to cite for it. Emily is exactly right. There's no conflict of interest here. The prosecution should not be disqualified. But why didn't the judge rule on that last time? Delay, delay, delay. Now we're going to get a ruling today, presumably. But let me bring to you a case from the exact same state, high profile, the state of Utah, a headline from CBS in 2010. Elizabeth Smart update, trial to begin after 8 years of delay. 8 years of delay, because the defendant there was citing mental issues, and there were all kinds of things that were teased out, delay, delay, delay. And I watched the Elizabeth Smart documentary this weekend, same state, Utah, and I watched the years tick by. They literally put the years that she had to wait for a verdict up. And her words were this: the case drug on for years and years. It felt like the system was rigged against me. This has gone on for nearly a decade. It needs to end. Erica Kirk has cited Utah Code 77387, which gives her the right to a speedy trial. Utah is the only state in the nation that has that, juxtaposed against the Sixth Amendment defendant right to a speedy trial. The judge needs to honor Erica's wishes here. This cannot be an 8-year trial.
And with regard to Erica Kirk's push for the public to know, it is kind of a different situation, too, because this might be one of the few where the public's need to know is somewhat like family. She's described what it was like at Turning Point USA, which has grown exponentially, but was already pretty huge, that it was like a family, that it is family. And so they grieve, maybe not exactly like her immediate loved ones, but they grieve like that. And so having on full display transparency in this case and inside that courtroom, I think is a little bit not only necessary, but maybe even different in this case.
This played out publicly, and in the interest, the public interest of putting away malicious theories, this needs to play out before the American public. We need to see every single thing that happens in this courtroom so we have a common set of facts and Erica and her kids can move forward.
All right.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.